The goal, antimatter. The journey, a long one. Hello everyone and welcome back to FTB Skies 2. Last time we were here, we finished our tower of power. Well, it's not really power, it's more of a computer. It's a giant computer. And well, it's pretty nice, I will say. I've set up a few auto crafting recipes. And not too many. I just shift click them all in here. Yeah, there's only a few, and mainly Mekanism ones. This is what we're going to be focusing on today. As you saw, our goal is antimatter. I want to be able to set up the production for antimatter. I don't think we're going to have an antimatter today by no stretch of imagination. But the goal is to at least get the production moving in that direction, or even set up to get it. So I've gone ahead and marked a lot of different recipes in here that we're most likely going to use. But unfortunately, we haven't started Mekanism at all yet. So we got to go from the beginning. Now I will say I did a lot of base cleanup. As you see, this island's completely finished its floor pattern. And well, a peek behind the curtains, I spent 3 hours removing these islands and shifting them over a single block because it was not centered. For some reason, I built this entire middle section here off-centered by one block because the original Geor island here, it was off slightly on one side and then off slightly this way, and then yeah, so it just didn't line up properly in the middle. So what I ended up doing is destroying this entire Geor as well, and I rebuilt it with the builder, so there's no more clusters on the side. It's very bland from the outside, unfortunately, but I just wanted to have everything nice and centered, and it was really bugging me. So I spent 3 hours rebuilding and moving everything with cut and paste and copy paste tools. And yeah, having to reconnect all my power and tangled blocks and make sure these didn't get corrupted and move out all of our drives took a long time. I will say, however, the one bonus from all this is we now have a basement. Now, our ice thing is floating in the sky, so we might remove this or move it or put a floor here. It's not centered. Unfortunately, it's off-centered by a single block. Everything I do is off-centered by a single block. I don't know how. Even though this wasn't intentional to be centered in the first place, it ended up uncentered. I digress. This will probably get a floor. Maybe we shift over an entire block because of it. And I just added this little floor pattern down here. Not too sure what we're going to do with that space just yet. One more thing I did, just quickly, I started making sulfur, obsidian, fluorite, and steel essence. All of these are going to be used in a lot. We're going to use them a lot. I probably should have done uranium as well. And I might switch over all 4 of these to uranium just because we're going to need a lot of it for Mekanism, a lot of uranium for SPS. And then I went ahead and set up our hydroponic beds with 6 soul surges, like I said previously. And we just have them entangled over here with power and then the drawers on top. Yeah, these guys just got changed over very easily. Oh, and we're using soul pipe energistics now. All you have to do is right click a soul pipe, like so. It tells you, if you hover over it, left click for soul pipe or right click to set warden souls, and then you can just set it to 16. So interface, smart cable, and then just wireless connector or directly connected to your controller. And then it pumps in directly into the soul pipes. Very simple setup. Now Mekanism time, the fun stuff. Now, if you've never used Mekanism before, I'm going to try to do my best to explain my thought process and my methods of automation. However, I've done antimatter and specifically endgame Mekanism for a decade now, or however long Mekanism has existed, and I've done it so many times with so many different mod packs. For me, it's second nature, and I kind of just breeze through it without a second thought. But like I said, I will try to do my best to explain stuff. I'm just going to pump out 524 casings. This is a completely random number. Don't take it as gospel. But yeah, look at that. 524 done instantly without even second thought. Just boom, done. Awesome. I love it. Probably won't need that many, but just in case, we have them. Now, I will say the process to get antimatter is explained pretty well in the quest book, to be honest, if you're genuinely confused. There's some really good stuff in here with the SPS supercritical shifter. Antimatter isn't a quest itself, but that comes in here. Does antimatter matter? There's no image for the antimatter, but this is where it is. So if you just follow this quest line down and follow from where the arrows come, it is pretty easy to follow along if you are confused. There's some subcategories like this solar neutron activator we're going to need to process this stuff. And it doesn't link back to it, unfortunately, but it probably explains. I haven't read through it all, but just in case. Nevertheless, if we break down antimatter, very simply, the chemical crystallizer will process antimatter. Antimatter liquid comes from the SPS, so we're going to need all of the SPS stuff. However, the SPS, to produce antimatter, it takes a bucket of polonium to make 1 millibucket of antimatter, Now, polonium, this is where the solar neutron activator comes in, requires nuclear waste. Now you just put nuclear waste into a solar neutron activator, get polonium 10 millibuckets to 1 millibucket. So once again, you're doing a 10 to 1 ratio. Here, we're doing a 1,000 to 1 ratio. So if you're doing the math yourself, you need 10 buckets of nuclear waste to make a single millibucket of antimatter. And you need 1,000 millibuckets of antimatter to make a single pellet, right? So it's a lot of nuclear waste. You may be wondering, well, how do you get nuclear waste? Very simple. Left click GAI, you'll see this recipe here. Now we could do bees. Bees process this a lot better. I will say, if you're doing bees and you have really high bee production with omega upgrades, like the simulation upgrades, and you're soul surging them, this is much easier to do. Now, the way you get wasted radioactive bees is by radiating uranium bees and having them die and come back to life. I believe, assuming it hasn't changed, but the way we're going to do it is by making a giant reactor. Now, the fission reactor itself produces nuclear waste as well as steam, and you can use this steam to power steam turbines, which is very, very useful. We're going to avoid the steam. We're not going to make a steam turbine. We're fine. We're just going to make a few more nitro reactors to power all of our mechanism stuff. We're not too worried about this steam, but I highly recommend taking this steam and throwing it into a max size steam turbine. Very, very useful. Nevertheless, this is how we get nuclear waste. Once again, 1 millibucket of nuclear waste per 1 millibucket of fissile fuel. So it's a 1-to-1 recipe, which is really nice because fissile fuel is basically our stage process here. However, enough yapping. We need to actually just get into Mekanism very simply, which means we need a metallurgic infuser. This is like the go-to. You need a metallurgic infuser, otherwise you just can't do Mekanism. So I'm going to make 4 of them. Yeah, I only need 4. I don't know why I was going to make 5. But yes, so we're going to make one for carbon, diamond, redstone, and refined obsidian. Now, this is why we made obsidian, because well, refined obsidian is a very useful thing to say the least in this mod pack, and that is also metallurgic infused obsidian dust, but through diamond, and then you take that, put it in a metallurgic infuser, and use it again. Now, I will say, with advanced AE, you can automate a single metallurgic infuser to do all of the inputs through one interface, and it is super, super useful. I just prefer speed. I still will do it where we're only using one interface, and I will show that off, but I just want to be able to use speed. Even with a giant factory, it's better to have one for each, in my opinion. And we have the resources, so I'm not too worried about that front. Now, I luckily have a basic tier installer from a quest book reward, so we're going to use that to our advantage here. These guys require basic control circuits to make, which means we need the metallurgic infuser, but it is lucky that we have one already. So we're going to take our metallurgic infuser, right click our factory upgrade on it, and we have a metallurgic factory, or a basic infusing factory now. So if I simply hook this guy up to power, give it a bit of redstone, which I really don't care about doing enriched materials for this specifically, because there's genuinely no need. We're going to turn auto sort on so it processes all 3 recipes at once, and we can do osmium, and I will do this one in you. So we'll do osmium and copper at the same time. Now, these guys are criminally slow, as you see. Like, that is insanely slow. And you can speed them up manually with speed and energy upgrades. It's usually a balancing act with those as well. I will say a lot of Mekanism is a balancing act, so I will add both the speed and energy upgrades in. However, that means we're going to need a way to make osmium dust as well as gold dust. So we'll get into that in a second once we make ourselves a crusher. But for now, we'll take the 2 basic alloys so we can make ourselves a crusher. So one of these guys will allow us to automate, well, very simply, crushing of materials. So we just come up to our pattern encoder, very simply click osmium dust, and it will automatically switch to processing when you go over to, say, your crusher and say this is the recipe I want. It'll automatically switch to processing, so you don't need to do anything. However, what's really useful is if you middle click, you can set this to 64. So I would rather process 64 osmium dust at a time. So say I want to craft only 5 upgrades, it will process 64 dust for me instead of doing only 5, and then we'll be able to have that in reserve when we need it in future instead of having to go through the process again. And we'll do the same with gold. Just set it to 64, set, and process that. So these guys are going to go in our crusher, which means we need to set up a wireless controller over on that side of the base. And then we'll just plop it down, most likely in the middle right here. And we're going to do Mekanism automation on this backside here for what it's worth. If you make yourselves advanced extended pattern providers, as well as an advanced pattern encoder. So with carbon, all we're going to want is enriched iron. So very simply, iron ingot, carbon, we make the recipe. But now, normally, if you throw this into say, a regular pattern provider, even though this is an advanced one, still works the same at the moment. If we put that in there just like that, it's just going to throw carbon it's going to try to push carbon in the top, right? That's not very useful for us. So we're going to clear all of them. We're going to set the top to input and output, and we're going to set the side to extra, like so. Now, if I take this guy, open my advanced pattern encoder, and throw this in, I can set the iron to go into the top of the machine, so the up face, and that is west. So we're going to say in the west face, we're going to put in the carbon. So if I make myself 3 basic tier installers, we can set all of these guys up. So once again, auto sort, clear, extra, input, output. And we're going to do it for all of them. So we'll do redstone, carbon, probably diamond, then refined obsidian. Very simple. Now for the crusher, we already have it. We can go ahead and do the same thing. I don't technically need an advanced extended pattern encoder for this one specifically, but we're going to do it anyways. Once again, come here, clear them all, input, output, eject on, and we're good to go. I will say make sure you do set your energy to the back input in case it got messed up like mine did, because you cleared them all. But yes, now we have energy in them all, and we'll upgrade you. Perfect. So once this is connected to our system, obviously, that is AE2 basic automation for the crushing factories and stuff, and we can make speed upgrades. But that's just very, very basic. We can upgrade these guys even further, and like I said, get the speed and energy upgrades in them. But this will be our basic automation for the beginning of Mekanism for what it's worth. Now to go ahead and test this out, if I want enriched iron, I can go ahead and say craft 100. Guys, I messed up. I messed up our recipes. I forgot. So for the enriched iron recipe, we're going to need to replace it with coal, because carbon's not a thing. Now we could make the carbon in our machine, like we could go ahead and use a chemical oxidizer to store carbon in our system, which genuinely isn't a bad idea, but chemical oxidizers can't be upgraded and it's just slow. So we're going to set 1 coal for this recipe instead, like so. And I meant to do it on the original recipe. There we go. And once again, go back in here, set coal to the west side, and now this should work. So if I want 10 of these, the coal goes in from the west, because once again, it's set to the left, and this will slowly process. Now, once again, these are horrendously slow, horrendously. So they're going to be soul surged from the bottom, and I think that's probably the best way to go about it, just so it looks nice, and obviously they will be upgraded to their highest tiers. So I'm going to spend the tedious amount of time going through all of the recipes for each one of these that we'll probably need, set up the crushing factories and all of that alike, and then we will start working on the processing of upgrading these. But yeah, the recipe's pretty simple. You just look up what you need. So what can be done with diamonds? Reinforced alloy, elite control circuit, refined obsidian dust. Now we could also make adamant dust in here, but we don't really need to. But yes, those are the 3 recipes we're going to set up for here. And then you do the same with refined obsidian dust, do the same with redstone. I've gone ahead and added all of the recipes we're going to need for Fissile Fuel in our machine here. I also went ahead and made an osmium compressor, doing the exact same thing, just setting this to up and to the west. There might be some more stuff for the osmium compressor later, but for now it's just refined obsidian and auto sort on, and then yeah, very simple. Now what we're going to be doing is setting up the isotopic centrifuge to make fissile fuel, and that is a big setup, I will tell you right now. Therefore, I'm going to get everything crafted up, and I'll meet you back here once we have all of the machines, and we'll explain it step by step on how we're going to produce it. Now, I will mention, I made more machines than we're going to need. I just want to have them, as we're probably going to use them in other spots as well. But for now, our goal is fissile fuel, which means we need uranium hexafluoride and an isotopic centrifuge. Very simple. So we're going to work backwards. It's my favorite way to do stuff is working backwards, which is not the most intuitive way to do things in all fairness, but it is the way I enjoy progressing. So our import is going to be from this wireless connector, and our reactor will probably be in the middle here. So realistically, I want my isotopic centrifuge to go into my reactor this way, right? That's how I want it, and that's power input. So I want my isotopic centrifuge to get exported into our reactor, which will go right here. Now, into that reactor needs to go uranium hexafluoride, which means we need a chemical infuser, like so. This chemical infuser will take both uranium oxide as well as hydrofluoric acid. Uranium oxide is the easiest one to get. It is simply yellow cake uranium in a chemical oxidizer, which comes from an enrichment chamber. So we have that. That is going to go right here. Very simply, goes in, yellow cake uranium, done. Now, we're always going to want fissile fuel being made. So we're simply going to slap an export bus on here and say, I want uranium ingots to go in here. Very simple. And look at that. We're already getting uranium ingots. We'll do auto sort and we'll speed it up. Now, obviously, no power. Very simple fix. Like so. Now we have yellow cake uranium. However, that power can't go there realistically. I mean, I guess it can go there. That's not that big of a deal. But I'd rather do it to this side like that. Now, once again, this yellow cake uranium is going to get stored in a drawer right here to act as a buffer. So we're going to do eject, and we're going to do the input at the back. Sorry. We're going to do the output at the top and input here. So that is going to eject into here. We will have a 2000 yellow cake uranium storage in here. And with this, it'll get pushed into a chemical infuser. Or sorry, a chemical oxidizer. So one of these will go right here. And it will input from the left. So this guy here will push to the east. And this guy will slowly start filling up with yellow cake uranium. And that will make us uranium oxide. So that is step 1 complete. Now, the next step is hydrofluoric acid. Very simple. Once again, luckily, hydrofluoric acid is simply sulfuric acid mixed with, well, fluorite in a chemical dissolution chamber. Now, I will say what's really nice is this can just automatically be imported into this guy here, which is always really fun. So we'll do chemical dissolution on one side, uranium oxide on the other, and we'll change this up just a wee bit like that. So we're going to do clear all sides. Make sure you clear all sides first. This is annoying to do, but our blue is our output. So we're going to output blue. Our red input will come from our chemical dissolution chamber, and our yellow input will come from the back. Very, very simple. Come over to this guy, and we'll come over to chemicals, click eject on out the out front, and look at that. So we now have that. Here we have a dissolution chamber with a fluoride gem. This guy has a crafting card and our fluoride gem in there. Our system already knows how to craft these with the essence. So it's very simple. This will always be filled thanks to our crafter. So chemical dissolution chamber, we'll get back to this. We need to make sulfur dioxide. So in another chemical infuser, we're going to be outputting to the left. We're making sulfuric trioxide and water vapor. Water vapor, very simple. It's going to be decondensated water. So that's very easy. I want to speed these guys up with our souls, but I don't think that's going to be feasible in the long run because we're going to need to power them in a condensed setup like this. Now, mind you, you could expand this setup and have it a lot more efficient. I just like doing a condensed like this to take up the least amount of space of our giant island. Don't ask. Nevertheless, power input from the bottom and rotary condensator is input 2. Now this guy, very simple, is going to be decondensating water vapor. See, it's decondensation, and it's going to eject out there, and we'll take power in from the top. Sorry, it's going to inject its chemical out the front. Fluid is going to be input from the top, like so. And once again, this is very simple. We slap an export bus on top, and thanks to our infinite water card, we can say we want to import water, like that. And you see, water vapor is already being made. Water vapor is being put in here. Very simple. Once again, mute. We're going to mute all the machines because they're loud. But yes, we already have water vapor coming in, so step 1 complete. Now we need to make sulfur trioxide. So that's our sulfur dioxide from the chemical oxidizer, as well as oxygen. So this will come from an electrolytic separator, which we will void the hydrogen and, well, import water the same as before. So oxygen ends up here. So what we got to make sure we do is when we're in chemicals is to make sure the output 2 is on this side so we don't accidentally put hydrogen in there. We don't want anything coming from the top, and we want to input fluids from the top, like so, and energy from the bottom, like so. And we'll do the same thing here. Water goes in top, gets exported. We're going to dump excess hydrogen, so once this fills up, it just dumps it, which is exactly what we want. And we want to output 2 into here, and then accept from the back, input 2. Now into our chemical infuser, as oxygen, we also need the sulfur dioxide. So chemical oxidizer down like this, clear all sides, input from the top, chemicals, output to the left, eject on. And once again, this guy is going to get a crafting card in the top and get sulfur dust. And this will immediately start working. So once this one processes, oh, we didn't set the output. No, we didn't set the input on this side, my bad. So sulfur dioxide is being made, sulfur trioxide is now being made. Sulfur trioxide will combine with our water vapor to make sulfuric acid, which will be pushed into here to make fluorite, which we didn't set up. No, we did. Didn't set up the input on this side. So chemical input on the left. Now sulfuric acid is coming in here, going to the dissolution chamber. That gets pushed out into here with our uranium oxide to make uranium hexafluoride, which gets pushed into here to make fissile fuel. Ta-da! Now, fissile fuel is great and all, but we have nowhere to store it. So we're going to use AE2 to store this, which is very simple. We're going to make a giant mega cell for chemicals. And this is because what chemicals we're going to store is going to be, well, fissile fuel specifically. And while I'd rather have 256k storage for it, so simply put, we're going to add that in. And I forgot to add the recipe itself, like so. Once again, we could do mega cells for this. I just haven't set up skystone ingots or accumulation circuits and all that stuff. We will get to it eventually, but for now, we're going to do it this way. So if I make 20 of these, they instantly craft, which is crazy. You don't normally see that. And we'll dedicate this guy to simply being chemical storage. Now, like I said, it'd probably be better for me to store all of my sulfuric acid, sulfuric dioxides, all of that inside my ME system. But I like doing personally contained setups like this over here for each thing I need. But in the case of fissile fuel, we will be exporting it directly back into our system. It is my preferred method of doing it. And now if you look inside our system, we have fissile fuel being stored, which is perfect. This is exactly what we want. So we'll just go over the setup once again, just in case anyone wants a full look over. To start, we have an enriching factory making yellow cake uranium. This is stored in a framed drawer, which is then pushed into a chemical oxidizer. This chemical oxidizer takes the uranium oxide and pushes it into a chemical infuser alongside hydrofluoric acid. Hydrofluoric acid is being crafted with fluoride gems with a crafting card, as well as sulfuric acid from a chemical infuser. To make sulfuric acid in a chemical infuser, you need both water vapor from a rotary condensator, as well as sulfuric trioxide from another chemical infuser. This guy takes oxygen from an electrolytic separator, as well as sulfur dioxide from a chemical oxidizer with, once again, sulfur with a crafting card. These guys are just both taking water. It's pretty simple. It may look, well actually no, this doesn't look complicated at all, but when you speak it out loud, it does sound complicated if you're saying all of the chemicals, I guess. But in all honesty, it's a very few machines just to make some fissile fuel. But I will say this production does suck. Not in the sense that the method of us doing it sucks, it's the speed of our machines. They're slow. So luckily, I made some upgrades. Now, I'm not going to be I'm going to be doing 32 of each in each one of these machines, and we're going to see how bad our power kicks off. Always the most fun way to do it is you put way too many, and then you see how your power can hold up. So we'll start with this guy. Okay, we're out of power. How much power are we using? Oh, that's why. Now we can use our full 9 million FE per tick. Hey guys, I need to up my power production. As you see, we're using 9 million forge energy per tick in this setup, and it can't keep up. Now, I could, by all means, remove some upgrades. But where's the fun in removing upgrades when we could just produce fissile fuel faster if we make more power? There's no elevator in the middle there. I gotta remember that. So, very simple fix. It's time to add more nitro reactors. Oh, yeah, that is going to be a problem, isn't it? We ran out of power. Okay, 1 second. I was wondering why there was so much noise going on down here. Running out of power is kind of an issue. We're going to disconnect this for a second. We're going to say limit your energy, just so we don't run out of power. And we're going to make some more nitro reactors. Now I just got to set up the recipes for all these guys, and it should be fine. Now let's say I want 20 more reactors. If I go to nitro, and I want 720, can we craft that? No, we can't. Okay, fun fact. We can't craft all that. So I will say, I do need to set up the spirited stuff, which I will do eventually, but for now, I do have it all in blocks forms, so like that. And then for blaze rods, we don't really care about crushing them, so we're just going to set that recipe up. And then redstone blocks we need to set up as well. Now if I want 720 of them, can I make it? I didn't actually look what else all I was missing. Okay, so it's dielectric casings. I thought I added that, I'm going to be honest. But I guess we didn't. Not what I wanted to do. Now we just need more nitros. Bingo. Okay, we'll be right back once that's done. And that was instant. Like, genuinely instant. So now it's time to set up 720 reactors. Which isn't hard by any means because we have everything being pumped out already. Like, I just gotta connect my item pipes up. So it's not hard, it's just a pain. I also got to figure where I'm going to stick 720 of them. Well, no, sorry, not 720. But I just got to figure where I'm going to stick them all. Now, one could argue it'd be better to just get a better source of power than nitro reactors. But I say to that, where's the fun in that? We already have it all automated, so why not? And our last one will go right there. There we go, 20 reactors all set up. Ta-da! That was actually a lot easier than it looks, genuinely. I just need a bucket of ether gas in all of these, which is pretty easy to get, to be honest, assuming we don't kill our wither again. And I have to remember, I have to go set our wither back up, as well as our warden, because right now we're not soul surging anything, because we don't have a warden to soul surge. There we go. They all have ether gas. Fun fact, if you right-click a pipe wrench on a nitro reactor, the entire thing breaks. Why? Beyond me, but that is a function, so don't do that on accident, especially if you have stuff in there, like your ether gas, because it will explode. Be careful where you're clicking. Maybe it's the mod author's way of saying don't use pipes on my machines. I want any other pipe mod, just not pipes. Or they could be funny and they're the same dev. I don't actually know. Now, you don't need to do this, by the way. I'm just doing it for aesthetic purposes. And I say aesthetic, which is crazy because our base looks like this. So I'm not sure what aesthetic I'm actually looking for. But I will do it this way for you. Awesome. They're all set up. Now they just all need to get power. I'm going to need a bunch more of these. Can I make 100? Yes, I can. And then we need flux points, not plugs. Let's make 3 more. So each side has one. Okay. Now, I'm going to be honest. I don't think this is enough power still, if I'm being completely real here. I don't know why I made so many flux plugs. I don't actually need it to do it this way. I just like the visual symmetry of things. That's a point. Oh, I made points. Wait, I meant to make the plugs. Okay, well, we'll just do the one, because I'm out of flux dust. Alright, well, we're just going to connect it all together then, like so, and a giant amalgamation of pipes. As long as each one's giving power, we don't really care. Okay, I'm just doing some snake tracing to make sure everything's connected to a flux plug, and it seems like we've successfully done it. Possibly. Are you connected? Yes, you are. These guys are all connected together. Okay, well, these should all be producing power. So, it's generating 400,000 FE per tick. Awesome. That's what we like to see. If we go over to our crazy setup, it's all currently working. Well, actually, no, it's not. That's a lie. Okay, we're using 4 million FE per tick over here. Seems pretty good. This guy's still struggling to keep up with energy. I'm just going to take some speed upgrades out. Let's bring it down to 16. Those are energy upgrades. That's not what I meant to do. Let's take you down to 24. That's still too fast for you. Okay. Wait a minute. What did I just take out? Once again, I took out the energy upgrades. Speed. Yes. Let's go to 16. Okay, well, it's working. You know what? The system seems to be working. We're making a decent amount of fissile fuel per tick. How much are we making? Wow. That's only 32 buckets. And we'll say it's not great. It's not a bad amount, but it's definitely not enough. Because like I said, 1 bucket of fissile fuel equals 1 millibucket of nuclear waste, right? And this burns through a millibucket a tick. So right now we are making enough to burn a millibucket a tick. Like we're making a surplus, but that's at a 300,000 bucket reactor with no heat. Like, right? So this is going to burn a lot faster. So we need to up our production, which means this needs to get sped down a bit. 24 good? No, you're still having energy issues. Okay, I'm going to uninstall a lot of these upgrades because we're using too much power. Yeah, the big stopper is this guy right here. So I'm just going to uninstall speed upgrades from it until it works. Aha, here we go. Okay, so immediately as you saw that jumped up, this is now producing fast enough. So we just got to go through, once again, this is a push and pull system. So we just got to check what can make as much as we want. So we're fine on hexafluoride side. We just need to go through. And it's a balancing act. Like I said, this setup itself is great. This is a great setup. It just requires a lot of balancing. So now, if we look at our fissile fuel, we're already at 200 buckets, right? This is so much faster. We're making a bucket a second right now, which is still slower than this system can fully go. Because once again, see, sulfuric acid is the issue here. So how do we speed up sulfuric acid? Well, we speed up sulfuric trioxide and this guy. So we come over here, uninstall some energy and speed upgrades until it works. Okay, it's kind of working. So we got to speed up this guy, and then yeah. It's just basically the fact that our system can't keep up with 20. Well, I don't think it's even the system. I think it's the nitro cables themselves. If we stuck flux points with power surge on all of these individually, we could keep up. But we don't have the power to do that at the minute. So we have to go through here and uninstall upgrades as seen fit, like so. And then this will keep up. But then we got to go sulfur dioxide. you're not keeping up. Why? Well, you're actually just not getting sulfur, or you're not getting it fast enough. We just got to make sure all of these have accelerator upgrades as well, for what it's worth. And now you're getting sulfur trioxide much faster. You're getting that water vapor. Well, once again, come over here, uninstall. And boom, right? So now our system's full back up. Everything's good. And we're making fissile fuel constantly. So hopefully we can speed this guy up ever so slightly. The process is a bit faster. And realistically, throwing a flux point directly on this guy with power surge will drastically speed this up. And if we throw acceleration cards on here, we are now making 2-3 buckets a tick. Yeah, about 2 buckets a second. Actually, more than that. We're making a lot of fissile fuel. So the setup didn't change at all. All it is me changing how much speed and energy upgrades are in each machine. And like I said, it is very much a case-by-case scenario, how much power you have and how much power throughput you can do. Nevertheless, it's reactor time. So for the fission reactor, we're going to go max size. Well, we'll see. I want to add reactor glass to my system, just because reactor glass looks better. So if we make ourselves 1920 of these, which it instantly crafted, make 708 casings, 13 reactor ports, not technically necessary. Let's make 1016 glass, actually 1024, make it nice. And 128 control assemblies. That will be our reactor pretty much. Now, realistically speaking, I'm not going to build a max size reactor just because we don't have the fissile fuel with this setup. We're making what, a bucket a tick, a bucket and a half a tick. I'm going to go with a 15 by 15. You could go max 18 by 18. I made enough stuff to be 18 by 18. I just don't think it's necessary. Once again, this server is, or my world is always running. It's always going. So I'm not concerned about the nuclear waste to polonium ratio we're going to have, right? Like, I'm not too concerned about the speed of it. I know I failed counting that miserably, so let's just check. With our tape measure, okay, we got one side correctly. Did we do both? Did we nail it? Oh, we nailed it. Okay, awesome. So yeah, you don't have to be an expert to see this is a giant structure. And just double check that. 15, perfect. And then we'll just fill in the box frame itself. And then if we grab our building stick, throw this in our offhand, we can fill up the interior like that. And like I said, I wanted glass all on the outside, like so. And we'll just fill it in like that. Now, that's pretty much the shell of the reactor. Nothing too complicated. We will add in our fission reactor ports in a second here. And now when it comes to the fission fuel assemblies, the best pattern is in X, like so. You want to cross back and forth. Don't double them up. And that'll be your basic pattern. And then you'll just repeat it every alternating block, like so. And then you have a full section of rods. And now what's really great about building wands, building sticks, etc., they will simply just stack on top, like so, and they will follow the entire pattern. Now be careful, once you get to the top, you have to cap them off with control rod assemblies. And then once you're at the top layer like this, or sorry, the second from top layer, grab your builder's wand, throw the control rod assemblies into your offhand, and then those will place on top instead. Make sure they're all filled in, make sure there's no errors before you put your roof on, because if there's an error, it won't work. That's very important that it does work. Now we're just going to come over here and place one layer on, just so it doesn't fill off the glass. Always good to make sure. Then we come in and place it, and then you can check on the glass, see, it filled in. And that is just, it's such an annoying thing. You just got to make sure it doesn't do this, because then you have to come over here and break them all. And once we place our final block, if this is correct, we should see red particles. But we didn't because there's a block right here. Okay, so once this is correct, aha, there's the red particles you will get once it's fully formed. Now, like I said, we're going to want fissile fuel going in one end, and we're going to import this through our ME system, like so. But we're also going to need water, and a lot of it. Okay guys, I'm just jumping in post. The episode's been recorded fully a few hours ago, maybe even like 12 hours ago or something. Just jumping in post here to say, I removed the sinks, and we're going to fix this thing immediately with integrated dynamics. I don't know why. What I did this morning was my thought. I usually use like Evilcraft or something with its infinite water block to power this thing fully with water because it's infinite. But my mind just went blank on solutions, and I just ended up building even more sinks. It was chaotic up here. And I was trying to think, so I did a slight bit of research, and then it clicked. Integrated dynamics can do infinite water transfer. And just so you're aware, this is a fun little tip. More pressurized tubes means more nuclear waste storage without it decaying. You could fill this up infinitely until we get solar neutron activators, which we will do next episode. So we're just going to hop into integrated dynamics quick. I don't want to make this episode too long. I already had the video fully recorded and a lot of it edited. I just realized the sinks were really dumb. And I was going to put a little note on screen, but I said, well, may as well just fix it so I don't even have to do that because I need the solution done now. So we don't have anything from integrated dynamics. So we can just slap a market down. Take this. Is this not how you get mineral seeds? That's funny. Okay, so cyan dye, leaf in that. And yeah, as you see, we're already prepping for next episode. That's what I was doing previously, but I realized I got to get this done first, or it's going to haunt me for having a really dumb setup shown to people. And it's set up. This is all you need. Not 9,000 sinks, not a million pipes. This is it. And I will explain this. It's very simple. So with the Fission Reactor port, you simply place a logic cable down, like so, right? Then you want to place down your fluid interface directly onto the port, and you're done. That's it. That's all you need to do for those two blocks. Now you'd place a sink down like so. And I have a fluid exporter here, but imagine this is an importer. You place it directly onto your sink. That's it. That's all you need to do for step 1. Now, step 2 is open up your logic cable, take a variable card, completely fine. You just need to take the variable card, put it into import all fluids. You could do import fluids as well, but then you would have to set it. So just do import all fluids, very simple. Click this plus right beside the properties, hit the top arrow twice to fluid transfer rate and add as many zeros as it allows. And that's done. Very, very simple. So if we come in here, we should be able to up our rate limit to, I think we're producing enough to do 300 millibuckets a tick. And look, our water is always going to be fine. We're never going to have to worry about it. It's just the fissile fuel and the steam amount that's coming out that's concern. But yeah, I just wanted to come in here mid-video to say, don't do what I did with the sinks. Don't do it. I will hopefully cut it to make sense. If you're seeing this clip completely randomly without the sinks in question, that means I figured the video was too long with me doing sinks and then I cut over it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy and I hope the video turns out well. But yeah, much simple fix. And there we go. Now what's nice is I can actually just store these in pressurized tubes instead of having to use nuclear waste barrels. So this now has a decent buffer storage, and I'm just solely going to do that. So we can run this, and I'm just going to expand on this until this for some reason doesn't work, because to make a solar neutron reactor, and the reason we didn't do it previously is because you need HDPE sheets. Bronze is actually really easy to make, but yeah, it's the HDPE sheets which require you to do liquid ethylene, or yeah, it requires you to do ethane with oxygen and substrate. And this is a whole nother thing. And also HDPE are used in SPS casings. So the next time we are in this world, we're going to finish off Mekanism and get ourselves onto the antimatter train. I wanted to do it all in one episode, but I think bulk doing all of the entire mod in one episode is a lot. So this was our antimatter prep. We have our fissile fuel and nuclear waste being made, fully automated, and we have most of the machines automated as well for our ME system. However, in the next episode, what we'll tackle is the HDPE sheets, solar neutron activator, as well as getting the SPS built. SPS is one of the coolest machines ever with the way it works with the lasers. And yeah, we'll jump into that, but it will take us some time to get there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope it wasn't too confusing and I wasn't too sporadic with my explanations. If you guys did enjoy, leave a like on the video. If there's anything you have questions about, I will do my best to explain it in the comments below, so just ask. And if you don't want to miss any future uploads, hit that subscribe button. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye!